Hey everyone, so I want to talk to you guys today about frequency and energetics and how if you're not in resonance with certain frequencies and energetics, then you won't be able to see things. You won't be able to know they're there. You won't be able to actually comprehend the information, right, that's coded in those higher frequencies. The reason why I'm bringing this up for you today is because a lot of you are awake. A lot of you are aware of like a lot of things that most of humanity isn't. And it causes a lot of struggle within your own body, which brings your frequency down because it's frustration. You know, you're like, how can you not see this? How can you not get this? You're harming yourself or you're staying in this lower state of consciousness for no reason, blah, blah, blah. So I want you to understand the reason behind this. And I also want you to understand why you're the one who's able to see this. Now, when I'm speaking about this, it's not just about what's obvious that's going on in the world now and the absolute chaos that if you're watching me, we're all watching, right? We're aware of it. We've been aware of it our whole life or maybe most of our life, but we're aware of it. And so this is where I want you to understand it's not just with that though. Like it can be with anything. It could be in business when you're teaching your salespeople or if you've got clients and you're talking about certain things and they just can't get it no matter what. Sometimes it has to do with they're not willing to change who they are, change their perception so that they can rise in frequency. Because when you rise in any frequency, no matter how big or small, there's information there that is not found on the frequency below it. That's how this whole entire universe works. And it's so interesting because when you think about business, when you think about money, when you think about health, you think about being happy, we're always, because we've been made into materialists, we always go into the physical world and try to pluck things, right, that will make us feel good, that will help us get us to where we want to go. And this was done obviously on purpose so that we never looked in the right place. And if you don't look in the right place, you'll never find it. And then you'll be going in loops and loops and loops until one day somebody or someone wakes you up. So first I want to start off with censorship, what took place and what our history has provided us with anyone who had knowledge that was outside of the controlled narrative. Okay, so anyone who had knowledge, any books that were written, any scrolls that were found, anything at all that had information that would raise your consciousness, that would enlighten you, that would inspire you, which would make you happy, which would get you excited, which would jumpstart your imagination, which you all are creators. Anything that would make you more excited to get up in the morning. All of these things are raising your frequency. The more better you feel, the more excited that you are, the more enlightened, the more inspired, you are already flipping up onto higher frequencies because that's what it's like. That's what you experience when you live from those frequencies. So when there is an agenda to keep you in a very low state of consciousness, they have to control not only the frequency that they're emanating through towers and EMF frequencies, but it's also done through information because it's moving to and through your mind, through your consciousness, and how you think will either raise your frequency or it will lower your frequency. So this is why my main point that I hope that I can make sure lands for all of you is the fact that information, when you control information, that controls the psyche. You brainwash people with information, misinformation. So information is key in terms of shaping environments and in shaping your mind, which is your identity. So when it's controlled and manipulated to only be certain information, which everything that we get here is inundated with limitations, right? It doesn't have to be fear, which most things are, but they're limitations. Like you're only able to do whatever is what you see with your physical senses. Whatever your physical senses show you, this is all that's available to you. That's a limitation. And that is just a belief system. It's just information that we were given. And whether we adapted to them and accepted it or not is up to us. But most of humanity has just plainly accepted everything that we were taught in every system, from our family, from our grandparents, because it was systematically structured so that every generation passed down the same limited information and ideas so that no generation was able to evolve out of it. And then the media and the system that you're born into complements it. So you are not able to be able to get to see what is true unless you listen to your intuition, unless you step outside the box, unless you stretch yourself from the limitation of what you see in your 3D world, and you start to live from your imagination, which is going to call upon you to be someone different. And most people don't want to stand out. They can't handle being different because the way society has been set up is those ones are ridiculed, attacked, bullied, because you should all look the same, you should all think the same, and you should all be the same, right? No. I do want to bring in, though, here that there are some people, this may be you, where from the moment you started to recognize the world, you always knew something was off. You had an awareness, whether it was about financial, about the economy, about the way things were just taught to you, everything felt off your whole life. Or you may have been part of the hypnotism. You may have once been fast asleep because of the brainwashing, because of the indoctrination, but at some point you have woken up. And the reason why there's only so few of us is because this is what I would call indigo children, starseed children. These are humans that come in with higher strands of DNA activation than the rest of the humanity. And this is why the low frequencies, the information is not able to either suppress the human, the indigo, right away, or it cannot sustain the suppression of them. They're bound to wake up and understand the truth because their DNA is programmed to do so. So this is why, if this is you, why you've always known things, why you've always been able to see through things, you've always had the feeling and inner knowing, always, without any external proof. This is because your DNA has got more strands activated than the rest of humanity. Now, that doesn't put anyone in a hierarchy. That doesn't make anyone better than anyone else. But this will begin to explain for those of you who can see this, or even the ones that feel lucky, the ones that have been able to manifest abundance in their life. Same thing. You've tuned in to the truth. And if you understand the truth and you tune in to the truth is we were always meant to be abundant, prosperous, healthy, loving, beauty. That is at the core of our DNA blueprint. So when you have higher strands of activation, you have access to higher information that vibrates higher, that gives you codes that will allow you to become more than what the system gives you. So what's really great about this indigos, the starseeds, the ones that have woken up and they're not inundated by the fear and worry, because there are some indigos and starseeds right now that know they have an inner purpose. They know they're here for something big, and they have been so inundated with the fear and the worry that they're struggling. They're struggling to start their business. They're struggling to ask for more money. They're struggling to sell. They're struggling to show up as their authentic self because of all the artificial programs that we have been given since birth. So this is for you. It's a shout out to you that if you are feeling this, it's time for you to move through them and show up as who you came in here to be. Because this is what happens to the other humans with their DNA. What we were taught was junk DNA is not junk. I've talked about that. So the more of us who activate our DNA, who start to get curious about what more is available to us. We start to live from higher states of consciousness. We get out of the system. We don't tolerate the system. And we go and we start our own business. We go and we find peace and happiness. We learn how to love ourselves from the inside out. We no longer are controlled from our external environment. We listen to our internal environment. The more of us that live our truth, starts to activate the dormant DNA in the rest of the humans. And that is what we need to do. So I just wanted to bring this clarity around understanding why, if you can see through the veil, if you've always known something's wrong, if you've exited the system and you've created a successful business, you have a life you love, you're actually in a state of peace, you've got time, you've got money freedom, you've got a perfect relationship or you have a great relationship, especially with yourself, then you have tuned out of the system. You have raised your frequency to a point where you can access more abundance, more prosperity, and that is encoded through information. You think differently. You create from your imagination. You don't create from what you see in front of you in the physical world. You innovate. Nothing stops you. There's nothing that makes you think, I can't do something. You will move through it. You are not afraid to fail or make mistakes. You just get up, brush yourself off, and you keep going. And so this is what every single human being is capable of, but this system is able to anchor you into the third dimension of the system's control until you raise your frequency. So this is something that for all of you, no matter what it is that you want, you will access information, the information that they have been trying to hide when you raise your frequency so that you can plug your DNA into that particular dimension. And that timeline holds a lot of information that you will start to download. That is direct cognition. That is knowing without having any physical evidence, because that's part of your supernatural powers. That's how the soul rolls. And you need to remember that you're not just a human. You are a soul who has stepped down into human form, but you're one. So to work as one is where you get your superpower. That's why they separated you from God, from your spirit, from soul, from anything other than just the physical, materialistic world, so that you never connected, you never worked from wholeness, you continued to work from separateness, dividedness, and that's what our world looks like. So why is this such good news? It's good news because then it might answer some questions for a lot of you, because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm talking to those who are in businesses now, that whenever you want more or whenever you've contemplated doing something that's outside the norm and why you're stopping yourself, just understand that you are capable of doing it or you wouldn't have the desire in the first place. But secondly, the information that you currently have, you can't live or make decisions from that information if you're looking to achieve something more. This is the biggest thing. Our external world, which I will call our environment, has been strategically curated to be limited in information and indoctrinated with fears and lack and scarcity and just plain limitation, because that information is very low. So if you are going to operate and think from those thoughts, that information, it keeps you low in frequency. So even though time is this way, so even though multiple dimensions are right here, you can access information as soon as you raise your level of consciousness, your frequency, and then you'll download information instantaneously into your body and mind. This is why they've kept you in such a low frequency, so that you would never access the truth. Because as you all know, the truth will set you free. So when you're in that Biveka system that I talked about not too long ago, when you're looking at your environment, if you know anything, I know a lot of you know this, epigenetics tells us that our environment signals the cells in our body. When you know that you are a cell too, who has an antenna, which are your mitochondria, it is your DNA. You are constantly being inundated from frequencies from your environment, communicating to the cell, which is you. And then you will signal back out to the environment. So your identity and your environment are equal. So if you're in a very low frequency environment, it's full of fear, it's full of limitation. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can only do this, you can only do that. Rules, rules, rules. And if you stay inundated and plugged into that, you will never be able to escape it. But you do see people escape it, don't you? Why? Because they tapped into something higher. They raised their consciousness even just a little bit. And they were able to see a completely different environment, a whole new reality. And that's right there available to you, because reality or time is this way. It's not this way. So if you want something new in your life, you're not going to get it from the environment that you're currently in. You have to create a new environment, an enriching environment that has exactly what you want. And then you need to rise and meet up with that. See, these are these traps that humanity gets caught in because we're inundated as materialists to only believe and consume physical things. Anything that's invisible, anything that's considered woo-woo or spiritual is not real. Meanwhile, like I talked about in a couple reels a couple weeks ago, I talked about that we are 0.00001% physical matter. And we're 99.99999% energy. And yet every one of us are focused on what? The materialistic world. We're materialists. We consume, we buy, and we look at the world And we want things because we've been taught that those things will fill the void within your heart, within your soul. Because we're not even paying attention to our heart or soul because that's not real because your physical eyes can't see them. You literally got to let the ego check out for a minute and literally own the fact that there's things we just don't know. And if you're not in a fixed mindset where no other information can come in because you know everything, then when you're in a growth mindset, then you will start to understand by putting yourselves in different environments where people are growing, where they're no longer part of the system. They're outside the system. They're living opulent and prosperous lives. They are healing themselves from the inside out. They are actually forming a beautiful and loving relationship with themselves, which is vital to success and health if you truly understood yourself. And when you start to live from those invisible things we've been told that aren't there, and you start to trust your intuition and use your imagination, all of the invisible things are the most important parts of you. And when you want to change your environment, when you want to change your life, you need to go within and tap into that inner world. It's just as real as your physical, but it's outside the range, the frequency range of your physical senses. That does not make it not real. That's why we've been limited, because we're convinced that if we can't see it, nothing else is available, and that's bullshit. You have no idea what's available to you the moment you take in a new idea. The moment you change something about the way you're living and rise above it, you're going to see a whole new reality, and you'll download new information, and you will attract new people into your life that cannot come to you while you're in that lower state. So everything you need for what you want that you don't have now is ready for you. But you can't get that until you rise up and meet it through your own frequency. So why am I sharing these reels with you today? I'm sharing these reels with you today because if anyone is stuck or anyone has an idea in their head, a fixed mindset where they don't think because they've tried, right? I was there once where I did everything the system told me to do to get wealthier, to be able to be happy and not spend my whole entire life as a slave working a job I hated. I tried everything and it always failed until one moment when I realized what I'm sharing with you. Because we're not taught in our educational system about the truth of who we are. We're not taught about our soul. We're not taught about frequencies. We're not taught about the fact that we have a quantum identity. We're not taught about our biofield and our aura. That has everything to do with who you are. And it's never been about doing, being, and then getting. That's how you're taught in the physical world. Do more, then you'll get more. Well, clearly that's not true. It's always been about being more. Being the best version of you. The version of you that is locked up underneath all those layers of imposter identities that you've created over your lifetime because you were protecting yourself from all of the lies and the fears and the traumas that come at you in the system's reality. The truth is you can have, if you desire something, whatever that is, if it's authentic and you truly want it, you can have it. It's a frequency game, my friends. And it's all about the invisible world, the invisible realm, where you are mostly hanging out. 0.00001% of you is in the physical world, and you are focused on that part only. Can you imagine how different your life would be when you actually started to focus on your invisible self, the identity that's behind the physical? The identity that actually is in charge of your income, of your relationships, of your level of success, and even your health. So when you stop living in the external world and you go within and start creating an enriched environment of the life and reality that you want to experience, this is when everything changes.